Okay, I'm Mike Ridley, editor of The Messenger, and I'm here today with Bob Kirk. And Bob is a veteran of World War II, and he's going to share some of his memories of that time and his service in the armed forces.
Thank you, Mike. It's nice of you to talk to me today. I have a lot of experiences I'd like to tell you. And prior to that, I'd like to mention that I was sort of anemic as a kid. I weighed 120 pounds at the time the war started. I was classified 4F. They didn't take me, and they assured me that I was 5'10", like that. But then all of a sudden the war developed over, and they had no trouble at all reclassifying me. My brother went in March 42, and I went in November 18th, 1942. When my brother went in, they needed Air Force people. When I went in, they needed infantry, so I got a break there. I went in the infantry.
Mm-hmm. Must have been tough, huh?
Yeah, it was. I trained. I have a lot of experiences that I remember. In particular, we started at Camp Livingston, Louisiana. Christmas Day, I remember very well then. Temperature was 96 degrees down there, which is not too far from New Orleans. And I said to them, is the weather always like this? They said, no, this is unseasonably high. And the song was very popular the first time. It was Bing Crosby and White Christmas. That dates way back to 1942. From there, they decided we'd be an amphibious infantry outfit, so they sent us to what they call Cape Carabel in the Panhandle in Florida for training. When we got there, they changed the name to Gordon Johnson, and we spent all day long. It was kind of cold down there too, going out in the boats, coming in, walking up the beach, and you had to be about 6 paces apart. You had to scatter. You could only walk in the water. When you hit the beach, you'd run and hit the ground. And I must have done that 100 times a day for weeks on end. And our commander at that time, maybe you heard of him, Omar Bradley, and he was going to take us to Africa and everything for amphibious landings over there. I never got to meet him, but I did talk to his barber. And his barber said that he was a swell guy. He said he was really terrific. And sure enough, it happened. Omar Bradley went to Africa and leaving things, but he left us behind. They transferred him out. And we were sort of put out. We're always left behind and everything. But we got a break later. We went to England. We were stationed in Wales. And again, we thought we'd probably go in D-Day. No one knew exactly when it was, but when it came to June the 6th, 1944, we looked up in the sky, and you couldn't see any of the sky. The planes were coming over and everything else. They said, we're left out again, you know. And everyone was anxious to go in and everything to get it over. My first day, I was with Company H, 109th Infantry, 28th Division, and they're the oldest division in the United States Army. They were formed by about 250 years ago by Benjamin Franklin, and their National Guard outfit from Pennsylvania. But when they were ready to nationalize, they didn't have enough men. A lot of those in it were political, and they had to get rid of them and bring in new blood. And they brought a lot of them from Rochester, Syracuse, in that area, and we filled up and everything. You had no chance at all for promotion because they were all right there politically in those jobs and everything, and so all they needed was privates, and I was an ammunition carrier for a heavy machine gun outfit, and I was that when we went to Normandy. We came into Omaha Beach, and it was quite a while after D-Day, but there were still bodies floating by. We climbed up the hill, and they had a stockade there filled with German prisoners and everything. We went by there, and we moved up. And our first major battle was at Battle of St. Lo, and my corporal, squad leader, was killed the first night. So we got company coming in now. Here comes Ben. He wants to be interviewed.
Had to be a pallbearer, man.
Turn it off, will you, for a second? Okay, I was at St. Lo, and even the general there was killed when our own planes, they didn't call it what they do now. What do they call it now? And they just dropped the bombs short and everything, and they killed one of our own John, can you help me? They call it a...
Friendly fire.
Pardon? Friendly fire, but I didn't consider it very friendly if they dropped it on you and they killed you. But I was with a heavy weapons company, and right after that we moved right through there, and the Germans are on the run, and we said that the war would be over by Christmas time. But I knew the way they were being killed in the hedgerows and everything, if I stayed with the outfit, that I wouldn't be around much longer. So there was an opportunity later in Normandy when they needed, northern France, when they needed to bring replacements up, and they had a Captain McLeod in charge of it, but he was supposed to bring them up. He didn't like that job because there was too much firing and like that. So he's looking around with somebody that could help out, that knew something about clerical and like that could type and everything, and I heard about it, and he interviewed me and said, well, when we need you, we'll bring you back from Company H. When we don't, we'll bring you right back up there. So for a long while, I was back and forth from the two. And he was really a good captain and everything. When he'd give me a Jeep, he would stay back in regimental headquarters. He'd give me a truck and a Jeep, and I'd bring the different ones up. And sometimes they'd be firing guns in the background like that. Some of the young fellows that come over never faced any combat or anything. Some of them would faint even when they go there, because you give them the famous talk, you fellas are pretty lucky today, you're going up but you won't have to crawl on your bellies the last 100 yards to get to your outfit. And just then some young fellow would collapse in there, and he'd say to me, Corporal, he said, they made me a corporal because I had that, give me your canteen. And he'd climb up the back of that truck and he'd pour the water right, and the guy says, you dirty coward, you gotta fight for your country. But I didn't like him or anything, of course. And we were lucky because they finally, when they moved us to the rest area in December, just before the Battle of the Bulge, he disappeared during the Battle of the Bulge. We never saw him, we never heard what happened to him or anything. And I never really much cared at all. But before that, we fought in the Hurricane Forest. We fought in the Battle of the Bulge. I was cut off for about 10 days. I finally worked my way back. But some of the things I remember was when I was way back in Wales, General Eisenhower came around, and I have a picture of him and it appeared in the Messenger. And you weren't supposed to take any pictures, you're supposed to hold rank, but he came up in his Jeep to talk. He went like this, and we all broke and ran up close, but I couldn't get that close. So I held my camera up over my head like this, clicked 2 pictures off, and they come out very good. Another thing, I got to meet the barber of Omar Bradley that I can remember. And finally, when northern France fell and everything, we were waiting for the French to go in and free the city. It was an open city and everything. There was a fellow named Jerry Harmon that I got to be friendly with, and he and I decided that we go into Paris ahead of time. No one knew where you were. It was chaos there and everything. So we took off. We had a lot of cigarettes, commandeered a French car and everything, and they were standing with guards all along the way, and we American, we give them some cigarettes, went right in. We finally got to, I don't know if they call them bars or cafes, or we got to a drinking place and everything, and he and I were about ready to go in. All of a sudden there was a lot of firing inside, and the door opened, they threw a German right out. He's bleeding like mad, gasping for breath and everything. We're already drunk, so what happened was that we just laughing like mad, stepped right over and went in. After we're in there a couple hours drinking like that, then we come back out, and he's still on the sidewalk there. And there were a lot of firing at that time. We spent all night there, and I finally got back the next morning. It was August 25th, 1944, and they said, no sleep at all. They said, get your outfit on and everything. We're going to march through Paris. So I wasn't too enthused about it, but I had to get dressed up. And that's the only time that my picture appeared on a postage stamp. And I have a copy of the postage stamp here, but I don't want to go into that. But the most memorable, let me see if I got it here, memorable year of my life is 1944. This war happened in 1944 from the high to the low. We started out high in England, accepted by the people and everything. And we ended up in the Battle of the Bulge getting beat back and everything. We also fought the Hurricane Forest during this period of time, and we didn't win that battle at all. And it was a useless battle because even win wouldn't have helped any. We got cut up a division before us did, and we lost most of our people. Finally, after the Battle of the Bulge, we were right on the line in the Battle of the Bulge. That we took the full blunt. About 6 divisions were against us. They cut us up to ribbons, and I was at Wiltz, Luxembourg at the time, and that they sent me as a messenger back to headquarters. They had radios there and everything. The Germans were moving in. I was there about a day, so I lay back, went to sleep. I woke up with a lot of banging and firing and everything. They were breaking up the radio equipment, and the guy's pulling out. He said, "My orders are to stay here till I'm relieved." He said, "That's all right." He said, "Greet the Germans for me." But I did run down a hill and jumped on a Jeep right behind the command car. It was at night. We're headed towards Bastogne. And we got around, it was real dark, we got around the curve in the road, and there's a big Tiger tank right in the center of the road. He fires, hits a command car, half-track right ahead of me, and it blows up. I just was blown right off the Jeep, the side of the road, and I crawled over. The Germans were all around, and they were howling to surrender. And they had flares in the thing, firing was everywhere. And we grouped back there, and there was a major that had no experience. He said, "We're going to surrender." So I got one of the fellows I never drove before. I said, "Let's sneak off here. I don't want to surrender and die in a prisoner of war camp." So I did, and we got away, but we had nothing to eat for about 10 days and all. But when the weather broke and our planes come over and so forth, we were able to get back to our lines. When we got back to the lines, they said to us, it was all out of ammunition and everything. They brought us to an old barn. They said, "How many grenades you want?" I said, "Oh, 4 is enough." They gave me 8. They gave me clips and things, and they put me on a truck, sent me right up to Bastogne, and all the people there that had been through this, the civilians are waving how brave we are. We didn't have any choice. I wasn't brave.
Yeah.
It was just choice. I don't classify myself as a military man. I'm a civilian soldier. I was drafted, I was forced in, I never liked the service, I was glad to get out.
Yeah.
But I had no choice at all that you went in, and I only did one thing. I'm not a hero. I wanted to survive.
Yeah.
When we got to Bastogne, we never got into Bastogne, but it let me dig in alongside of artillery pieces to protect them from Germans. And I was there. If Bastogne had fell, I would have gone, but luckily it didn't fall. We went back to our outfit, and we moved on. And my next big instance was Colmar Pocket. I was at St. Marie on January 31st, 1945, when the only man that was ever executed for desertion was with us, and I believe I brought him up as a replacement. There's so many I didn't remember the name, but looking at the background of the book, Just Punishment or Legal Murder, he was the only one from the Civil War up. I didn't see the execution, but I talked to a lot of people that did and everything. The book accounts fully how this was. He came from Detroit, about my age and everything, and when he went up as a replacement, it's the worst thing that could really happen to anyone. Go up not knowing anyone, they're firing, they killed a lot of them on the way up and everything, and he took off. He's with a Canadian outfit, and I finally caught him and put him back up. He couldn't take it. He said, if I go up there, I don't know exactly when I'm going to be killed, but I will be. I'd rather be executed than go back and fight. But there were a lot of incidents like that. I'm very, very happy to have survived and everything. I did earn the Combat Infantry Badge. I did earn the Bronze Star, the Conspicuous Service Cross, 5 Battle Stars, and like that. In fact, I never got them. I could not face it after I got out. I never joined veterans outfit. I never had anything to do until after I retired, a great many years. I didn't belong to the VFW, the American Legion. I come back and immediately went to college, got my degree and like that, and I wanted to forget it. So when we talk to fellows that don't want to come back, maybe those feelings are still with them today. And they are awful memories, but I wouldn't have missed it for the world, really, looking back, if I'd known I was going to survive. But survival, you weren't certain of, because I think I was the only one, or one of the only ones, that went in with 109th Infantry and went back with them. And the one on the ship with me was General Koda, that was at D-Day, and later took over the 28th. I got to meet him. I was still a corporal. I didn't want to be any higher because you had to lead the men. They're the ones that got killed by the snipers. He offered me staff sergeant if I come back. They were going over to fight the Japanese and everything. And I said, no, I can't even consider it. He said, tech sergeant. He said, we need some experienced people coming back and like that, but I had no part of it. And I was discharged on September the 18th. I didn't even have 3 years in it. 2 months short. I did have enough points and everything. I did get out. I did immediately, even though I was in the second week and they wouldn't let me at the U of R. When I saw the dean let me go in and continue, and I started my civilian life, and I was glad to get back. Now I did a little talking, your turn.
Yeah. Well, you told us a lot about your some of your close calls when you were over there. What do you remember generally about your day-to-day life as you were going over there?
I'm glad you asked that, because there wasn't really any life. It was existence. When you're in the infantry, you have what's on your back, and that's all you have. And you have I had an M1, you have your ammunition, you have a few grenades and everything. You sleep in a slick trench. There was a whole winter of 1944 that I never slept in a bed. Occasionally I got real lucky and would sleep in a barn, But we had a roll pack and one blanket. We always long johns and 2 pairs of pants, as a fur jacket and everything. We ate K rations and C rations. C, lucky enough, you could warm them up a little. But that's about what you had. You went to the bathroom anywhere you were. You didn't have any frills. If you got some water, you took your helmet off, the liner out, you put the water in, you could wash up, and you really didn't get to shave. You didn't get anything. None of the niceties, And I think it's barely existing. You went out in the wild here, and they gave you a K ration, C rations. You had exist. We went in July 1944, and we didn't pull out until April 1945. And I think with the infantry, different than the Navy, different than the Air Force, you had no place to go back for a warm meal to rest. And I think you get to see the war firsthand. You get to smell death, to see them, to kill, and see your comrades killed and everything. And I think the late Ernie Pyle covered it. He said the way it was. But I try not to think of that. You only think when you look back at the more pleasant things.
Yeah. Now, how long were you there altogether? You said from
overseas,
yeah,
or in the service. We went in July 1944, and we're there to the end.
Yeah.
They relieved us right near the end in April, I think, when they had a final push, because they were stopping them.
And when did you get back home?
I didn't have enough points. I needed 85 to get out, and I had about 78. So they decided that those that had more points would stay there, because they didn't want the others to go right back, regroup, bring them up, and send them right over to fight in the Pacific. Mm-hmm. But while I was gone, I picked up more points, 2 more points. They gave me 31 days of rehabilitation. I went home, and then I had to report back. By that time, the day I landed in New York Harbor and went to Fort Dix, they had dropped the first atom bomb. It was in the news and everything. Time I got back, I had 80 points. They lowered it from 85 to 80, and those fellows who were in 4 and 5 years are still sitting in Europe waiting to get back. It took them months and months. That's the only break I got when I was in the service.
Yeah.
but the first time I really haven't talked about till after I retired. I belonged to the 28th Infantry Society. I was next in line to be commander, vice commander I was, and they wanted me to take over, but I didn't because Pennsylvania, you have to cover the veterans hospitals, you have to go around to the different places, swearing and like that, and it would be expensive, time-consuming like that, so I still belong, but...
It's basically a Pennsylvania...
It is the Pennsylvania National Guard, yes. And they have regiments, 3 regiments, 4 regiments, and I belong to the 109th. In fact, we had casualties of about 112% casualties. You might say, how can you have more than 100? Because they bring them when you get killed like that, they bring them up. When someone is shot and they're wounded, the medics take care of them. You continue fighting, you can't stop. If they're dead, you just move on.
Yeah.
And my first thought was Corporal Robinson was my squad leader. I went over with him. And the first night, mortars start coming in. And he got out, some of the fellows dig in deep enough to tell him, to yell at him and everything, to take care of it. And the mortar came in, he got him right in the back of his neck, and I looked at him, he was there dead. Everyone knew then they had to dig in, that was the way. And I knew sergeants, one sergeant got the Silver Star, Davis, and he had a family back home and everything, and they were pinned down in Normandy. He says, come on, let's go. So he let us, and we broke out and everything. But he was mowed down and killed, and he was a staff sergeant. Sergeant Evans was a personal friend of his. He went berserk after that. I really don't know what happened. He wasn't hit or anything, but he went right out of his head, and that did happen a lot. But they said in World War II there was no shell shock. If you couldn't take it anymore, they sent you to a psychiatrist that would say, come on, Bob, old boy, get out there and avenge your comrades. Just get in there and kill a few more, and then we'll talk about this again. Mm-hmm. And it was a tough life. And when people talk about it, they talk about the pleasant things.
Yeah.
Incidentally, I wanted to tell you, we were first of many things, and I got papers here to show. We were the first one, was covered in Life magazine, to go into Germany. And I believe the date was September 22nd, 1944. I also have got, which I don't want to show you right now with me, my mother got Life magazine and she cut it out. There was a picture of me, and in there with my gun and everything free, and people put flags up. It was a great time going through France and Belgium and Luxembourg because we were treated as heroes. We weren't there to do anything that we go into these places and they would wave, they would do that.
Yeah.
But some of the bad points was that we had so many casualties. They relieved our general. So the new general appointed, now I can't come up with his name off the top of my head. He come up to, it was a Sunday morning, we used to have mass or Christian services right off a Jeep and everything there, whenever we could, which wasn't every week. But he come up and he was there with us for the services and like that, and he went forward to see why so many were killed and everything. The sniper shot and killed him. And I think it was about 12 hours he was in his appointment before he died and everything. Mm-hmm. Another interest, there were 2 kids, I think their names were Polish boys in Syracuse. They were in Company H with me, Kopacek. One of them was very fortunate because he got killed in Normandy in, I believe in August, northern Normandy, August 1944. And his brother continued on, and he got it in the Hyrcan Forest in November 1944. And I said, gee, the suffering and everything, you'd say, what have I ever done to deserve a fate like this? Because you would be cold, your feet would be utterly cold, you didn't get to sleep at night, you were a guard, maybe at night to kind of watch and everything. If you weren't, you still couldn't sleep. You're always extra tired and everything. You were wet and dirty, your feet were frozen and everything else. It was nothing nice. They told you if you got trench foot and everything, they'd immediately send you over to fight the Japs and everything. Why don't you take a break for a second? How much time have I I would like to say one thing, that the toughest battle that we had, the most brutal battle, I think, of World War II was probably the Hurricane Forest. It was brutal because they were dug in right on the side. There was almost like D-Day, you know, we didn't have the Navy to shell or anything, and they were on a hill and everything, and were in these pillboxes and everything. And there was a division ahead of us that couldn't take it, and we thought we could, and we're finally almost all killed. We lost a lot of my friends and everything there, and we never did take it. I don't think it fell a long time after, and they said if you read the book that you find that. Now, when I was at my last reunion, there was a fellow that went to the War College in Cardiff, Pennsylvania. He said, do you have any books on combat infantry, maybe what the foot soldier had to go through? And they pulled this book right out, A Personal Account of World War II by draftee 36887149. And he says, you made an old soldier very happy. I wrote that book. And he tells his story, and he says to Bob Kirk, 109th Regiment friend, he was in the 109th. He said, you can tell a combat soldier if you get this close because of his eyes. And that is true, because they would be half asleep, their eyes would be drawn, they wouldn't really comprehend what was going around them or anything, because you knew so many people were killed. You went in with the idea that if they didn't manufacture the bullet would kill you, but actually what happened was, after you're in a while, you realize it could, and you're only thinking of surviving after a while. If you get out, maybe you have a hard time even driving the guy out of a slit trench, because he knows if he gets out, somebody's going to shoot at him. And a lot of new people coming in, the new guys, replacements, didn't want to fire their guns, because they knew if they fired, the other guy's going to fire back at you. It's almost like when I was a kid, someone puts a chip on your shoulder and say, you knock it off and I'll take care of you. And both of them stand and won't knock it off or anything. They just go there yelling at each other. It's almost like that. But the more experienced soldier realizes that firepower is the thing, and you got to keep firing and driving them back, because you can't just stay there. And that's why I told the sergeant, Staff Sergeant Davis was killed. Nobody wanted to get out and lead against the Germans, are dug in behind the hedgerows and like that. You know, when you get out, nearly no one that I know is a non-commissioned officer or an officer, first or second lieutenant, were platoon leaders. They had to get out and lead the men. That was an awful job. You could get battlefield promotions if you wanted it, but you wouldn't live long enough for them to okay it. It was that bad, because we were really 2 or 3 times wiped out. We were wiped out in Normandy, we were wiped out the Hurricane Forest, we were wiped out in the Battle of the Bulge. I think one whole regiment was completely wiped out with no one left at all. And war, I would have to say, is horrible. There's never another war. We'd probably be better off, but it was a war, though, that we had the backing of the people at home, which they didn't always have in other wars. And I say this, that they knew it was a good cause. Adolf Hitler and Tojo were really villains. And what they did in the ovens and like that was horrible that was brought out. The people they killed, and now they had no mercy and everything. That they realized, and I wish the young people realized, what our generation had to do to get rid of the Axis powers.
Okay. Anything else you want to remember about family back home, or what it was like coming home from?
Well, I do, maybe. Yesterday I got a package from, first I'll back up a little with my division. They knew I marched in on D-Day, on Paris. I have the stamp right here. Here's the stamp, the original stamp. And postage used to go out, and when they put this out, for how much is it there?
3 cents.
3 cents. And there I am. If you look close, you'll see me in the picture. Marching, our D-Tramp is right below it and everything. it was a wild time then, but we didn't have very much time to stay there because we still had a war to win that we went through there, and a lot of those, I'd say 90% or more of those that were there are no longer with us. Now, we do have a book here, The Battle of the Bulge, and I did furnish a lot of information for this book. And I got my own little write-up in here. There's pictures of me in here. And writing a letter home, you mentioned it. My mother always said, here I am writing a letter home, right here. Mother always was worried about having two boys, and she was through World War I, where a lot of her family was killed, and she was definitely worried that we would go over there and get killed and everything. My brother was stationed in Italy. Here I am, here, Corporal Kirk, handing out grenades. This is the Battle of the Bulge right here. I don't suppose you could see it there, but there are a lot of pictures in here of the same thing, and in the back they have a biography of different ones that furnish the information. Let me see if I can come up with mine right here. There we go. Is it my stamp?
Yep.
Hold on to it for me. Let's see. G-H-I-J. Here I am. Then and now. I haven't changed at all, have I? And it's a short account. They have cut them, you could say. I write in here after the war, and extremely lucky he was still alive and uninjured. He returned to civilian life. I was out of Rochester then. University of Rochester, attended on GI Bill, and they were very good to us, the government was. They gave us a bonus. They let us buy a home with 4% mortgage. They gave us 4 years of education, everything. My parents didn't have a lot of money. I couldn't do it without that. And I started out with the state of New York in 1949, worked my way up to the head of the Income Tax Bureau in Central New York when I retired in 1982. And it says he's married to Doris Fiend Kirk from 48, 3 growing children, 2 sons and a daughter. And this gives you the whole background of we entered the war just before St. Lo and so forth. It's a very good book. I have a lot of material. In fact, I have a picture of the way I looked then. I don't think I changed any. We used to have letters home. I don't know if you ever heard of a V letter. Here it is. They had, because of spacing like this. It's Christmas somewhere in Belgium, 1944. And I got back just at Christmas time, and I got a quick note to let my mother and father know I was still alive, see?
Mm-hmm.
You can read part of that. What's it say at the start?
Believe me when I say it was impossible to write home during the last 10 days. You probably know more about conditions by reading the papers than I can explain in this brief letter. I am quite well and safe, so don't worry about me. I must admit that life has been rather rough for me for the past week or so. I had some very tough times, close calls, and at times thought I would never see another Christmas day. But here it is Christmas, and I can truthfully say I have more to be thankful for than any other Christmas day.
Here's a picture, if you want to zoom in on this, postcard they made of me marching through Paris. I'm really not in this picture at all, but I have a lot here. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. That's the same as what's on the stamp, or similar to it. Hold it for me. The first Christmas back, I have this Christmas 1944, and these are the pictures of Christmas 44. Some of the one, there I am and everything, writing a letter and things like that. Then I have Christmas, I made a copy of that, Christmas 45. What a difference, you know it?
Yep.
That was the difference. And here's a picture of me when I went in the service. I don't think I changed any, I hope. Of course, that was 52 years ago. See it? Right there. Okay, now you know one thing, Mike, I'm pretty long-winded, right?
Well, you shared a lot of memories with us, and there's a lot of things that happen that we should let people know about. So, thanks for coming out and talking with us today, and I'm sure we'll be doing more installments as we get more veterans to talk to us.
I would like to make one observation. I wasn't married then, but my wife, I knew Doris Fiend, her name was at that time. Her birthday was August 25th. She's born 1925. Don't tell anyone I told her age. But that was the day we marched through Paris. And I thought of her that day as we were marching through. Well, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay. That was short.